Hello and welcome to episode 119 of the Building Sustainability Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Hart, and every fortnight join me as I talk to designers, builders, makers, dreamers and doers. Together we can explore the wide world of sustainability in the built environment by talking to wonderful people who are doing excellent things. This is the second part of the episode with Adrian Leaman. It is a big old in-depth chat about roundhouses. If you haven't heard episode 118, then start there because it will give you the whole primer into roundhouses. We're going to chat about roofs, floors and walls in this episode, as well as some really sound building advice from Adrian. This episode also contains a few little swears, some campfire crackles, and at the end, some fireworks. Okay, enjoy the episode. Cool. So we're on the roof. We've done 15 or 16 reciprocal roofs going up, finally closing the gap on top of the initial reciprocal roof. Yeah. How are you waterproofing? How are you infilling?
Yeah. Okay. Infill. Actually, what I will say also is I'm timber obsessed, as you know. Funnily enough, I found myself building timber buildings. And what I will say about this approach in general, which is advantageous, is that you relatively quickly get to the point where you've got a roof that you can keep dry. You know, you can waterproof the roof relatively quickly in the build, and then relatively quickly have a dry space to be working in. Even if you then decide to have a non-timber based actual wall around it, you've already got yourself a dry, convenient workspace, and that's a really good thing for a building or for builders. So we tend now, I've been through many iterations of different ways to frame out these roofs, and I now do tend to do some version of what you can see now in this one, which is purlin based. And I'm really glad that we've got this roundhouse here on site at the woodyard, actually, because it's really useful to be able. I'm sorry, everybody, you can't see what we're looking at. It's very useful to have this here and to be able to show people this as we talk through the different approaches. But what we will now tend to do is this one, which is, so the purlins are horizontal beams that join the rafters, kind of making a ladder, let's say. And so they're spreading the load, they're joining the rafters, and then we board onto that. Yes, they're concentric circles. Yeah. And then we run 20mm board on top of that.
That is nice. I like that. Because the big one we did in Scotland, we did our boards running. We did concentric boards. Yeah. And that was so many cuts.
It's a lot of cuts, a lot of angles, a lot of cuts.
Yeah. And I'm just looking up and seeing that each little section here has maybe 8 boards in it. Yeah. That's 8 cuts. Yeah. That's far fewer.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It also, as I found, since I switched over mainly to this method, that it gives you a really super flat roof profile. You don't get as many lumps and bumps and weirdnesses to work on top of. It's really a quite incredible cone. It gives you a very, very good cone. Really nice, actually. Yeah, I'm really happy with that as an approach.
Great.
Yeah.
And looks like you've got sort of Waney edge boards up here.
I have, yeah.
That's sort of the cheaper cut of wood,
well, a lot of this building is sort of bits and bobs, really.
Right.
Yeah, so they're Waney edge boards on top. Sometimes we use Waney edge, sometimes we use straight edge. I like both, actually. And sometimes the purlins are whole rounds, as they are here. Sometimes they're half rounds. And and then so here we've got these 20mm boards, and this was the first building we did this way. Yeah, I really like it. So then, more commonly, we'll be doing a green roof. And what we'll quite often do now is the boards and then the butyl rubber straight to the boards.
Right. So there was a concern that we had about puncturing the rubber.
Yeah, I know. One gets so really precious about one's rubber.
And carpet was mentioned, so putting a layer of carpet down so that there wasn't a splinter or
Yeah,
a rogue nail or something that pokes through the rubber.
yeah.
You don't feel that's an issue?
I do run over the roof, not literally. I do go over the roof, check with my hands and visually, is there anything on there that's a potential puncture hazard, and we brush it and get it swept and clean after all the jointing and
Yeah.
It's funny, the thing with the rubber. It's rubber, so you kind of think, oh yeah, rubber punctures, and it does. It's true. It's absolutely right. It's really good quality stuff, and it's the building grade rubber, which you have to get. You don't, for God's sake, don't cover it with a pond liner. It's not thick enough. So the building grade rubber is really thick. It's pretty hard to puncture, actually.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff, and so if you give the roof a good inspection, well, I mean, we've never had a problem with it. But yeah, I think it's fairly easy to spot something that's rogue that may do it some damage.
Great.
And it is designed to be put straight on deck, the rubber. They usually advise to glue it down. We don't use the glue to glue it because we've usually got a green roof on, and that's perfectly heavy enough to hold it.
Yeah. Are you just using one big sheet?
We are be using one big sheet for the entire thing.
Heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy.
That's
It is heavy.
That is
heavy.
An exciting lift, isn't it? Sort of dead weight, slightly floppy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we've rolled it up timbers and rolled it up ladders and lifted it up on pulleys and done all sorts of things over the years. It's almost the heaviest and most awkward part of it is the most heavy and awkward part of the building, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite a lump of stuff. But yes, and because we use one piece, which is actually easier and cheaper, it does mean that, but you were saying about this puncture thing, you can't really drag it around once you've got it on the roof. So what we'll tend to do is get the entire thing rolled out on site and re-roll it so that we can stick the thing up in the middle of the building and let it unroll to gravity from a central point.
Smart.
And then we don't have to try and move it around.
Yeah. And are you oversizing that?
Oversizing it a bit.
Presumably you buy EPDM it's EPDM you're using, isn't it?
Yeah.
You buy it in a square?
Square, yeah.
And how are you calculating how big of a square you need?
Kind of the easy old-fashioned way. I'm just measuring the roof.
Right.
Once we built it.
That's boringly straightforward.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, folks. Yeah.
What about your CAD model?
all that interesting maths.
Yeah.
No, we just measure the building.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, give ourselves a little bit of excess. Yeah.
And it stretches to the sort of conical shape of the roof?
There's usually a couple of relatively small pleats, and that's it.
Great.
And if you're putting on a green roof, that's kind of just vanishes. So yeah, it's pretty easy. See, I've got obsessed with putting the puncture-proof layer on top of the rubber, and arguably even that's like, is that necessary?
Yeah. Because the concern is when you put soil and stuff for your green roof, there's going to be stones.
Yeah, it's not so easy to sift through the medium that goes on the roof as it is to inspect your timber.
Yeah.
So we'll usually have a puncture-proof layer there, and then we've either got a sedum roof or we've got a wildflower meadow mix roof which people seed onto the soil, or we've got a wild seeded roof so people just see what comes. So some stuff will come out of the soil that they put up there, some stuff will come because that's the incredible way nature works.
Mm-hmm.
And then more
will
recently,
Birds will fly,
birds
dropping
will
the
fly.
seeds.
Yeah, I mean, it's bonkers how things travel around.
Yeah.
Quite beautiful.
Like when you see a fern or something up in a tree, like just found its way into a little
Yeah,
nook.
I know.
How did you get there?
You know, it's almost as if they walk around at night,
Yeah.
rerouting themselves. So we've started now also doing invertebrate roofs, which is my new pet joy. We've got one here, just behind the Roundhouse on a building. Yeah, wow, blew my mind when I first discovered that.
Do invertebrates need more help finding habitation than, say, butterflies need wildflower meadows?
Yeah, I don't know if we're
What's
being too invertebratist.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. The reason I've called it that is because I discovered it through an organisation called Bugs Life,
Okay.
who've been researching these roofs for quite a while in the UK and connected with other organisations abroad. And that's their terminology,
Okay.
invertebrate roof.
We just did one, by the way.
Yes,
Because
get in.
you had me sweeping up shavings and putting them on that roof
Yeah,
once, and I was like, it's a good idea. So yeah, we just did one in Netscombe.
Wicked.
So
I look forward to
the
seeing
idea
that.
is spreading.
Yeah, great.
Although I just saw on your one, you've put a lot more stuff up there than I did.
Well, yeah, you'll get there. I mean, it's a bit like hoarding. It's sort of the opposite of hoarding. It becomes a place to put all those things. So it's worth checking them out though. Are they bugslife.co.uk possibly? But if you search Bugs Life, you'll go to their website. Loads of really good information on there about their studies, like really properly good information.
Great.
They've got a test one on a school. I think it was in Sheffield. It's now so diverse. English Nature have classified it a nature reserve.
Wow.
What? Yeah, I mean, wow.
Brilliant.
Get away, didn't it? Yeah, that blew my mind. I love that. So as we put shavings, bark, rotten logs, all sorts of stuff goes up there. It's essentially
bricks. I've heard people putting like bricks.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of emulating a bit of a brownfield site mixed with wildflower meadow mixed with woodland floor.
Right.
That's basically what's going on, and I view it as intelligent chaos. You're creating lots of niche habitats that work in different ways and offer different things to hopefully to butterflies as well.
You're not anti-butterfly.
I'm not anti-butterfly, no, I'm pro-butterfly.
It's the bees you hate.
It's not true. Not true, listeners. I love bees. Bees are my friends. So what was I going to say? So it's built in pretty much the same way that you would build a normal green roof. You know, structurally underneath. It's just a variation of what you put up there.
Yeah. And then different types of roof dictate different size rafters, going back a step.
Yes.
Heaviest, probably just a soil mix. Would that be? Because soil, when it holds water, becomes ridiculously heavy, doesn't it?
Yeah, you might be right. And depending on thickness as well.
I think sedum's the lightest because it's
Yep.
kind of on that volcanic rock, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
Very
that's right.
minimal substrate.
Yep. And then again, some people in certain situations, for whatever reason, will just finish at the rubber layer. And of course, the rubber is designed to do that. So you can, if you're under dense canopy, built a roundhouse underneath dense canopy setting, there's like bugger all light getting there. You're kind of some kind of green roof isn't going to work. You're either going to be finishing at the rubber, or you're going to intentionally go for like a leaf litter, woodland debris kind of top. Both of which might be lighter.
Right.
One thing you do have to, of course, watch out for with any kind of roof that has organic matter on the top is you're going to have to weed it.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't want trees setting root in your roof.
I saw, where was I? Maybe I was coming out of Scotland, actually. I saw a roof with some proper trees growing on it.
Holy shit.
And I thought, that seems like invasive root problems.
Yeah, right. Wasn't an abandoned Mayan temple then?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not
Just
good.
outside Inverness.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely not. No, not good. Not good.
Can you put goats up there? Trim the grass? Trim the
I mean, I'm
foliage?
going to say yes. There must be somebody out there successfully doing that, surely. I've never done it. I've never seen anyone do it, but surely.
I feel like I might have seen the Centre for Ancient Technology down Dorset Way. I feel like
right.
I might have seen sheep or goats on their roof.
I
Though
guess you
might
don't
have
want
made
something
that
that digs too much.
up. No,
I would say not pigs.
not pigs.
Chickens,
Yeah, a bit pecky, scratchy.
bit pecky, scratchy. And also, I guess it can be. I'm not so much an experienced grower of food, but obviously you can, to a degree, grow interesting crops up there as well. So that's a thing
Ooh,
as well.
interesting. Yeah.
I've never yet done that. I did once build a building for a grower that they became mates anyway after I did the project for them. But they were growing herbs, a lot of herbs up there. I think they had tomatoes at one point, and yeah, really, really beautiful actually.
And okay to walk around up there?
Okay to walk around. So that's a great question. Thank you. So part of the structural integrity of the roof that you build is probably as much to do with supporting the builders as it is to do with supporting the final thing that goes on the roof, because it's a fairly flat roof, and you may want a team of people up there building it and or maintaining it. So the boarding that they're walking on and the purlins that those boards are supported by, and etc., need to be able to support a few people who may choose to have a group hug in just one area.
Team photo.
Yeah, team photo.
Yeah.
Don't want them crashing through the roof. And it's quite, people. There's a lot of weight in people, and that applies to many different types of roof. Think about that. Don't just think about it from the point of view, we only got to put maybe a light bit of onduline on there or something.
Yeah.
You've got to get up there and do it. Seems like a really daft thing to say, but it's easy to forget.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, yeah. People don't but I don't feel like I get thought about as a builder very often.
No, right. Yeah.
That sounded like a little cry for help, didn't it? So we've got a waterproof structure.
Yes.
Some people might stop there, might they?
Some people might stop there.
Have an open-sided.
Yeah. And I do often say to people actually that if you're building say it's a teaching venue, there's no reason to necessarily rush to enclose it. You might want to live with it for a while. See how you feel about the openness of it, see how it works for you over the course of the year.
And this one was open for a long time, wasn't it?
For a long time, yeah.
And then you closed in the sides with a kind of weave.
Yeah, we've tried a variety of... Pretty much everything that happens at the woodyard is experimental, because we can build whatever we want here in whatever way we please. So it's really great for us as builders and teachers, because we can experiment with something we haven't done before without needing something to be successful for a client. And gives us a chance when we've got apprentices or other people working here that we can experiment with stuff that where the outcome is a little bit unknown, and then we can monitor things over time, how they're performing. So quite often we will, this roundhouse, for example, you'll probably remember, we didn't build it here. We built it over the other side of the yard. It was moved here, was initially open. Walls got added with very different designs in different walls, and over a period of time, and some have changed and been replaced. Some have got built-in shelving, some haven't. Some are removable panels, some aren't. Some are woven, some are cleft oak, some are slab wood offcuts, some are in line with the posts, some are exterior and go around the posts. We're probably going to put a doorway in. We've just got this lovely arch painted arch at the moment.
An actual doorway.
I think so. Yeah, we might go saloon doors.
Ooh,
Yeah, baby.
nice.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to infill the walls?
So we really enjoyed the openness of the structure for many years, and then put in a couple of half-height walls on the wind side to keep the chill off the back of the neck in the colder seasons. And then actually found that we really liked the extra snugness of that enclosure. So we've only gone, we've got slightly different heights on different walls as an experiment, but they're basically in the region of half height. So we've still got loads of light coming in, still got great view, got a bit of draft taken care of. But yeah, really love the snugness of it and the fire glow on the woodwork. Feels really homey. I really like it.
It's a thoroughly lovely space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, you love wood.
Yeah.
You're going to do wood walls.
Yeah.
What other options might there be?
Well, I might just say, whilst I'm looking at this roof, just to rewind back to roofs. So I've also done Onduline roofs.
I don't know what that means.
That's the corrugated bitumen covered
Oh, yes.
fabric thing that's yes, like corrugated tin, but it's bitumen based. I've
Yeah.
done tin roofs of different types, and just as a warning for people, I found the putting tin roofs on roundhouses hideous. It's a lot of longitudinal angle cuts on tin. It's a lot. It's just a lot of metal cutting. Really not nice.
And not good for material usage.
And
By
you've
a
got
square
those,
sheet.
and then you've got those weird angles to try and close up where the box section or the corrugated section is at different angles. It's just, and it doesn't look great. But it lasts well. It's relatively quick to fit. It doesn't look great, so I'm not a great fan of that. Although, in certain situations it may well be the way to go. And certainly if that's the material you've got and your budget's limited and what have you, then go for it. But just my reason for mentioning it is, expect a lot of horrible cutting.
Right.
The Onduline cuts much more easily. It's a very soft, pliable thing that looks like the tin. It's a bit cheaper, doesn't last anywhere near as long, degrades quite rapidly, needs to be supported really, really well on solid timber, otherwise it sort of sags in the heat. But it's out there as an option. It's relatively cheap, but probably the easiest option for just a flat final finish is the rubber. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I suppose it's too shallow a pitch to really do shingles.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, it's pretty shallow for shingles.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it, but they won't perform that well. Although they'll probably be all right, but they just longevity goes right down.
Yeah, and they are slow to install.
Yeah, really.
So
slow
if you're going to have to
install.
redo it, some years later when they've all rotted out,
way the most expensive roofing option,
right?
that you're likely to go for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, walls. I forgot what you said.
I said, what else can we do for walls?
Oh yeah, what other than timber?
Because you could do, I know you've done a project where I think were you using wood fibre insulation or sheep's wool insulation?
Yeah, sheep's wool, yeah.
So you created kind of a stud wall between the posts?
On the outside of the posts.
On the outside of the posts.
So the posts were completely inside the building, which is really nice.
That is what we did, and probably what I would recommend, certainly if you're trying to make an airtight building.
Yeah.
Doing airtightness around or butting up to a post which is going to split slowly as it dries and is an irregular shape, and it's difficult. So on your very smart recommendation, we pushed our wall. We actually pushed ours quite substantially past
Great.
the ring beam to sort of create almost like little rooms between the back wall and the posts.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice way of doing it. Yeah, I agree. I really like that. It's really beautiful to have all that round timber work in the building,
Yes.
like properly in it.
So yes, you've done a stud frame infilled with nice insulation.
Yes. Yeah, that looked truly wicked. Mm-hmm. It is still a timber approach, as you've rightly spotted. Yeah, that one we had a vertical internal and external cladding with a stud void that was sheep's wool filled. We did that cupcake style actually. That's something I've done a couple of times where we lean the cladding. Well, the whole structure is leant out, so if you're inside or outside the building, you're faced with a non-vertical wall. Really
Isn't
nice.
that who the American
Oh
chap?
yeah, him. Yes,
He's really great.
yes,
Made yurts. Bill
Yeah.
Copperthwaite.
yes. There you go.
There you
Well
go.
done.
Yes. I don't know if he pioneered that.
Oh, I don't know either. No, I don't know.
Yeah, it certainly makes the inside space feel bigger because the sort of space is at your head height and is closer at your
Yeah.
feet.
And for the building externally, also, I guess it's doing a similar thing. I can't remember if this is why we tried it or not, but you know this principle about columns, like Corinthian columns and those sorts of things. They found over time that a straight column that's quite high visually looks wrong, and then they found that the optimum thing was to make it not straight in order to look straight effectively, and they bulge the bottom out below halfway.
Right.
And so mostly columns on temples and whatever
Yeah.
are like that. And it did the same with the roundhouse, you see, leaning it out slightly made the thing sort of sit down better. It sort of, I really like the look of it. Yeah, it looks more like something just sort of nicely squatting down into the landscape. It's sort of very pleasing effect. It is a lot more work. Make no bones about that. But it looks wicked. Yeah. So yeah, we've done a couple of those in that style.
I've done straw bales, which the sort of complication there was building a top and bottom ring beam, sort of separate ring beam. Again, I'd recommend outside of that, the sort of structural ring beam and posts. And you need a top beam which will sink down and squash your straw bales to get that compression. And it can be a bit tricky. We had one that was we pinned it up in the air, filled in our bales, dropped it down, and then came in with timbers afterwards and kind of wedged it against the roof, and then infilled that bit on top with sheep's wool, and I think we did some light straw clay up there as well. Yeah, that's definitely an option. Again, yeah, really recommend don't muck around with your posts. It just makes it hard work. Cob,
Sorry, what do you mean don't muck around with your
as
posts?
in your structural posts, don't have the bales notched
Oh, I see.
into
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people think
Yeah.
you can notch a straw bale, so we'll do that. And it's a pain to plaster.
Yeah, for sure.
You want your plaster to form an airtightness barrier.
Yeah.
So you need to plaster behind.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a pain.
Yeah. Yeah, there's quite a few things, I think, in probably in all types of building. I suppose I always say to people who come on a course, crikey, I can't believe I'm now sharing with you the end point of a course. It's just general sort of good advice, actually, that I'll always say to people, like on your first build, first of all, the best thing is to build small. Right? Build a model. Better make a silly mistake on a bunch of sticks that you can pick up with your hands quickly in a few hours than on a real size project. Buildings, by their very nature, are huge projects. It's really, although you may say, well, on some level, it's like making a piece of furniture, and it is, but scale-wise and weight-wise and time-scale-wise, it absolutely is not. And so this is a general bit of advice I would say to anyone is, if it's your first time, or if it's your first time with that type of structure, build it small first. And I say, if you can't build it small first, keep it simple. And ideally keep it small and simple. But if you can't build small, keep it simple. So don't try and challenge yourself on all fronts simultaneously. Don't have too many unknown things that you're having to pioneer or wrestle partway through the project that might throw up issues that you hadn't thought of. You know, the weight and time scale and adventure of the build is sufficiently amazing in any case that even if you keep it simple, it will still be an amazing journey. So try and, if you want to experiment with a particular kind of thing in a building, just limit the number of them that are experimental and unknown, and keep as many of the components as possible fairly obvious and straightforward. You can always then build another building at some other point in your life and try and experiment with something more, but don't trip yourself up on the first one and make things really horrible and protracted and annoying. And you can iron out a lot of those things at small scale, so it's always worth starting small.
I think a top tip, sorry to give away all your secrets. Top tip, you told me build your reciprocal roof on the ground first.
Yeah.
Don't muck around at height.
Yeah.
Learning how to do a thing.
Yeah, that's another good bit of advice, isn't it? Work at height is like, what would you say? I mean, half the speed of work at ground level? Less?
Much less, yeah. It is slow, and
it's so slow.
And it's because it's dangerous.
So slow, yeah.
So don't be figuring out how your reciprocal roof goes together and, you know, oh, do we need to put some joints in here or whether...
Yeah, and there's, I mean, kind of as sort of general advice and stuff. Yeah, I think particularly with Roundhouse, I suppose, well, we haven't... Right, it's a noisy night, everyone. There's a lot of fireworks going on. Yeah, what we haven't covered, actually, but I should rewind slightly, because with walls, what we haven't covered, because you and I have possibly not done it, I certainly haven't done it. I haven't done load-bearing walls and put a reciprocal roof on it.
No, I've not done that. So you're thinking like a cob wall or a stone...
Or load-bearing straw bale or stone. I've done cob infill and I've done cordwood infill, and I've done straw bale infill, and straw bale non-load supporting, but I've never done load supporting walls on a roundhouse. But just to put it out there, so also a really good way to go, and a reciprocal roof will sit well on any kind of load-bearing wall, as well as it will sit on a timber wall. Still needs some kind of ring beam. It still needs anchoring to the material in the wall. But still a really good way to go. Oh, floors. We should talk about floors.
Well,
you've got obviously excellent floor experience.
Well, everyone should put earth floors in their roundhouse. I mean, I suppose it's sort of, you know, if you're doing an internal space or an external space, is that a good way of describing the difference? Sort of home or outside structure. And this one's got wood chip. It's nice. I was going to say you might not want to sleep on it, but
I think I might tonight.
You might want to sleep on it. Yeah, I mean, I would potentially shy away from doing an earth floor in and outside space like this. The difficulty for me would be water getting underneath. When you do an earth floor, you saturate the top in linseed oil, and the sort of top 10-15 mil polymerizes and goes super hard and waterproof. If water gets to the bit underneath, then you've got mud turning back into liquid sloppy mud. So, I mean, with the right detailing, you could pretty much guarantee that wasn't going to happen. Certainly if you sort of raised it up, if you sort of filled with gravel or something like that first, to get yourself sort of out of the water level.
Yeah.
It's probably, it's definitely doable. Do that. Put an earth floor in.
There you go. I recently had the pleasure of sitting on one of your earthen floors.
Yeah.
A client I was doing some work for, and it was a very beautiful thing. So yes, I second that. I've done an earthen floor once.
Yeah.
One experience of it, and loved it. Yeah.
What situation was that?
That was one of my first professional builds. It was a back garden studio, monopitch, building roundwood timber frame, wattle door balls, lime rendered, earthen floor.
Nice.
Really nice. I don't think it was quite to the quality of yours.
Well, I am the UK's leading
Yeah, so I've heard. Yeah,
floor
yeah.
slash only.
Yeah, I've normally done, if I've done floors, I've normally done floating timber floors, which in all situations have been attached to the frame with then additional piers supporting the timbers inside, and pretty much done as a normal conventional timber floor would be done. Nothing particularly unusual in it,
Yeah.
other than that it has to fit within a round building.
There's a really great example. Sorry, I'm jumping back to earth floors.
A bit like me talking about wood.
Yeah. Stop going on about mud. Tom Ingle up in Leamington Spa did a fantastic roundwood, reciprocal roof round timber frame. I'm jumbling all my words now, getting overexcited. And he put an earth floor in there, and it's a stunning example.
I must go and see it.
Yes,
Yeah.
you really should.
Yeah, I'd like to go and see that.
And yeah, I convinced him that we should ferment the straw, so mix up all the mix beforehand, and then let it all ferment. I didn't realise quite how long it was going to smell like a farm. And lucky for him, he had other stuff to do around, the property, because it was pretty pongy for a while. But it made a super strong, really beautiful floor.
Yeah, I should go and see it actually, because I can't remember what I advised him now. So I did some consultancy sessions with him about that, and he came to look at some of the structures that I built down here. So I'd love to see how that played out. It's one of the things that, so I've been roundwood framing professionally for 20 years, and going back to see buildings that you have either built or help other people build, and seeing over time how they've performed has been an invaluable thing for me, having stuck at largely doing the same thing for 20 years. It's so rich, like the things that you learn from that experience that you just can't get simply from building something and then leaving after it's built. Like you learn, of course, shitloads doing that, about how to put things together, but you don't learn how things perform over time, and really that's arguably half of the skill of building, or the knowledge base of building.
You're making your best informed decision to make something last and perform. But you don't know the ins and outs of how a building's used.
That's right. I mean, it's something, again, we're really lucky with this site. We've been based here for over 10 years now, and we've built quite a few roundwood timber framed things here. And as I was saying earlier, we've intentionally mixed things up and kept things different, and always used different styles. And some things aren't necessarily particularly obvious as what they are, but I really do enjoy, actually, on the course, we always go around and visit all the different successes and failures, some accidental, some intentional on site, because the learning you get from those things is incredible. So we've been able to observe over that 10 years how various things have performed. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
Really, really super interesting. And the longer we're here, the more amazing sort of things come to light, because those processes are quite long. So, in terms of different foundation types, different jointing types, different waterproofing types, different ways of putting things together. So it's something that I would really advise to people who are thinking of building either for the first time, or a particular style of building for the first time, is do go and visit some other buildings. Go and visit them, find out about them, how they've performed and what have you. And if possible, try and speak to the person who uses it, and ask them the question, well, what were the successes and failures or surprises of this build?
Yeah, what would you do differently if you did it again?
Differently? Yeah, for sure. What would you do differently? And another thing I would say to people, well, another thing I do say to people when I teach is half of the equation of what you build and or how you build it is not to do with the dreamy notion that you might have of what you want or how a particular design that inspired you might have looked in a book or what have you. It's to do with kind of the everyday things. You know, realistically, how much time have you got available in your life to build this thing on a weekly and a monthly basis, and over what time scale? How many mates have you really got who can help you and prepared to dedicate a similar amount of time? Or how much budget have you actually got, and how many days of a professional's time will that buy you? What's the access like to your site? How long is it going to take you to drag materials there, and over what distance, and what machinery or person power or whatever you've got would it take to do that? And these things kind of end up, when you start looking, I mean, you'll know this because you also being a professional builder, but once you start looking at these things, they end up directing the nature of your build quite substantially. And the more, because I've done obviously quite a lot of builds for people, but I've done quite a lot of consultation for people, particularly over the last 5 years. I do quite a lot of consultation for people now and a lot of them are quite capable builders or skilled craftspeople and what have you. But it's just can be really useful to have a second brain and a second pair of ears and a bit of experience of someone who can ask those sorts of questions that are specific to that person and to their location and to where they are in their life, you know, and all sorts of stuff to try and tease out, well, what is the best trajectory for your build? What's the critical pathway through? Because the building's a beautiful process, but it is also goal oriented. You've got to get somewhere at the end of it. You've got to complete a building and it's got to work for you. And part of that question is like to do with the what your life will allow you to do. And to go through those things and what your site will allow you to do and all these things. So it's good to have a second person to sort of question you through those things, like whether it's a professional like me that you might call up and book an hour's consultation with, or whether it's just a mate. You know, find someone that can cross question you on some of that stuff, because it's very easy to get super excited as we all do about like some amazing design, you know, like, oh my God, I really want to build that. And that's great because that'll give you loads of impetus and drive and stamina to get stuck into something. But you do need someone who can stand slightly aside and say like, yeah, mate, are you really saying you're going to spend the next 5 years of your life slogging out doing this thing? Like, how are you going to be earning some money? How are you going to pay people? How are you going to this, that, or the other? Because you don't want a really shit, horrible experience in a half-completed building that the rain's getting in 5 years later and it's not finished. Nobody wants that, and that's such a common story. So find someone who'll do that for you.
Nice.
I went on a bit of a rant there, didn't I? Was that ranty?
No.
Oh, good. Okay.
No, it was good. I think you'll get some good business out of that as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, great. I absolutely love encouraging people to get stuck into things and making it more achievable for people and possible, and allowing people to cut some corners with some professional advice and guidance and perspective and what have you. But whatever, find someone.
Yeah.
Because it can be your mate, whatever it is, or many mates. Ask loads of people. You know, don't let it just live in your head, because it can quite easily become a dream and be not realizable.
Love it. Roundhouses.
Roundhouses, yeah. Hopefully popping up all over the country like mushrooms. Well, they are. I mean, I suppose, do you know, I guess we're kind of reaching a point in the podcast now. We're definitely reaching a point.
What does the time say?
It says 1 hour 50.
Okay.
Yeah. What I feel like one of the things I feel like I'd like to do is give a bit of credit to people that I've learned from, and also like the lineage of it. And like, I don't want to bang on about it or anything, but I feel indebted to certain people, many of whom are still around, that I've learned from and have pioneered stuff. Tony Wrench, obviously. My current table tennis buddy is Jack Everett. he was a very, very early pioneer of reciprocal roofs and still does a lot of work with that, and does a lot of work with bamboo. Like, Christ, what an amazing building material. And he's a real dude, and yeah, he's been building reciprocal roofs and roundhouses for a long time, even longer than me, as has Tony. And yeah, both really super amazing, great people that I've learned a lot from, and in various ways, I've learned how to relentlessly be beaten at table tennis by Jack, amongst other things.
I mean, it was nice to fulfill the role of getting pasted today.
Yeah.
You were very kind, and you only showed your true dominance on a few occasions.
Well, there's always plenty of opportunity for table tennis at the yard. It's one of my loves. You got any kind of conclusion, summing up things and words of wisdom for people? And
Do you know what? There's a phrase you said to me that I think you might say on all of your sort of roundhouse builds about taking loads of trees out of the woods, doing loads of work to them, and then standing them back up as trees.
yeah,
Which I'm sure you could say really nicely and sort of summarize just the whole roundhouse experience.
yes, the irony of my life that I spend an amount of time cutting trees down and then quite a long time trying to make them stand up again. Yeah, I suppose it's partly about, and you touched on it earlier, about this thing of using materials rather than products. And part of the thing with natural building, it is a relationship, and so you're embarking, or we are embarking on a relationship with the natural world by harvesting things from the natural world, which we use to make ourselves comfortable and
Safe
and shelter us, and
Yeah.
and that's a relationship, getting to know those materials. It's a really beautiful relationship with living things, as opposed to stuff that comes out of a factory. So it's, and as with all the types of relationship, they're a grown sort of journey, as much as they are a final destination. And so don't be too hard on yourself about the various failings or underperformings of your first build. There will be lots of things that didn't go quite according to plan, and there'll be things that quite definitely fuck up, and there'll be things that you'll need to redo, and there'll be some of those things that you just have to live with and be like, yep, that's just a thing. But yes, it's a journey, and you're supposed to learn along the way. And I mean, again, this is another thing I say to people on courses. The whole reason for coming on a course, really, as far as I'm concerned, is fucking up's okay. That's like one of the best ways to learn. I mean, ideally, fuck it up on a course, or when you're helping someone else and they fucked it up and you've learned from it. Don't try to do as many things as you can, obviously, to make the fuck ups not happen on your perfect thing. But whatever you do try and do, at the end of the day, there are going to be fuck ups on your build. That's just the nature of building. Nothing goes perfectly, and you always get that kind of like, and they can be really amazing learning experiences of when something goes wrong. That's the time you have to think on your feet and be spontaneous and creatively problem solve, and it can be a really nice thing. But you still might get these bits in your building that don't quite work, but you'll probably build something else in the future, I'm sure, because you'll get hooked like we all do. And that's the way you learn, and you can never get everything right.
Yeah. Celebrate the failures.
Yeah, celebrate the failures.
Try and make them early and small scale.
Yeah. Laugh at the failures. Revel in the failures. Carry on.
Yeah, don't be beaten by them.
No, don't be beaten by them, and don't be kind of beaten down by the story of Square either. The story of Square is everywhere, and it's quite a dominant narrative in society in all regards, not just its literal square houses, but like, even if you're listening to this podcast, like, thank you for listening to this podcast and choosing to search out something different and a different way. And there are loads of us out there. Get out there, get involved in stuff that's going on, and keep searching out a better way. Yeah. Maybe cross paths with other mad and peculiar people like us.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Adrian. I had such a good time having a chat with you. We actually started the day with a wild swim. Then there was a spoon club, the Tetbury Spoon Club at the Woodyard. Hung out with lovely people making spoons, eating soup. Yeah, lovely time indeed. And then, yeah, hung out in the evening with Adrian recording this, and then hung out with B and Rosie for a lovely time around the fire. Such gorgeous times in beautiful places with wonderful people. Thank you, Adrian, for hosting that and for giving us savoury porridge. I wanted to highlight there is an episode with Matty Whitaker and Joe Bolton where they talk about their roof and some of the species that have been growing on their roof. Fits quite nicely with this one. If you haven't heard that, then do check that out next. I'll put a link in the show notes. Oh, I just wanted to say about the straw bale. If you're doing straw bale in a roundhouse, I probably now would not make a movable top beam. I think I would fix that all in place and I would compress the bales. It's possible to build, say, 5 bales high, and then you compress down those bales and you can slot in the last bale, and the kind of lower bales spring back up and you get a nice tight fit. I would say that's probably easier than having a movable top ring. Both possible. Both involve a little bit of head scratching. Recommend Barbara Jones's book. She goes through all of the ways to do those things. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Also links, I'll try and find Bug's Life, Centre for Ancient Technology, that got to mention. Bill Copperthwaite, definitely have a look at his yurts. He's got a really beautiful book that is called A Handmade Life. Definitely worth a look. I'll see if I can find a link to Tom Ingall's Roundhouse, probably just to his Instagram page. Links to Tony Wrench as from the first episode. And I would love to link you to Jack Everett's work, who Adrian mentioned at the end there, but I can't find anywhere. Maybe if someone knows how we can see that, then let me know and I will add a link. Right, that is pretty much it. There's just time to say, if this was your first episode, then please do check out other episodes and subscribe for all future ones. There's loads of building and sustainability related content for you to get your ears into. Is that a phrase? Sure. Yes, if you've enjoyed it, please do share. It takes 2 seconds and helps out loads. Patreon, if you want to support the podcast financially and maybe you want to get a hand-carved wooden spoon, then head to patreon.com/building sustainability. You get loads of bonus episodes and content and advert-free listening and that warm fuzzy glow from helping out to get more episodes of this podcast made. Okay, that is about it from me. I hope you have enjoyed Adrian Leaman. I hope you are having a wonderful day, and I can't wait to be back in a couple of weeks for another Building Sustainability. All right then, until next time, bye-bye.